Welcome back to Live Impact News here on the 13 News Now app. 1:32 p.m. We've had so much going on with weather and live events that we sort of buried the lead today a little bit. It is election day. There are a number of states voting in primaries across the country, and Virginia is one of those states, and Hampton Roads distinctly involved in these primary elections. Let's start with the highly discussed 2nd Congressional District. There is a Democratic primary occurring in that 2nd District here in Hampton Roads. 4 Democratic candidates, one that everyone will recognize, former Congresswoman Elaine Luria, once again running to gain that Democratic nomination to go and face Jen Kiggans in November in the statewide election. Now, Elaine Luria already, of course, held that 2nd District seat. She lost that seat to Jen Kiggans. She took that seat from Jen Kiggans. So the two of them will be running against each other once again if Elaine Luria can win today's primary for that Democratic nomination. So that is really a matchup, not to make it sound almost it's almost sports-like in that there's a rivalry going almost, where you have Jen Kiggans in that seat. Elaine Luria wins that seat. Jen Kiggans wins that seat back, and now Elaine Luria coming for that seat once again. Elaine Luria has raised more in this campaign than the other 3 candidates combined. She has the backing of the Democratic establishment, but there are 3 other candidates running here. You have Bill Fleming. He describes himself as an independent Democrat in this race. You have Dr. Nila Devanath. She's a physician who maybe has positioned herself as more in the progressive lane, as the progressive voice in this race. And then you have Patrick Mosolf, who has spent his career fighting for human rights and has made that really sort of a core tenet of his campaign. So there are 4 candidates on the ballot to win the Democratic nomination and go and run against Jen Kiggans for the 2nd District congressional seat in November. So if you are voting on the Democratic side in the 2nd District, that is what you will be looking at. Now, I know I kind of ran through those candidates rather quickly. Layla Cox did a much more informative and in-depth story on those candidates. We're going to play that story for you now, especially so that you can learn about some of the lesser-known candidates as we make our way through Election Day.
4 Democrats are competing to represent Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. I sat down with all 4 candidates. Each says they're best equipped to face incumbent Republican Jen Kiggans this November in one of the most highly anticipated congressional races. One of Virginia's most competitive congressional districts is about to take center stage. Next Tuesday, Democratic voters will choose who they believe has the best chance to unseat Republican incumbent Jen Kiggans in November, in a district that could help determine control of the U.S. House. 4 candidates are making their cases to voters, each offering a different background and vision for Hampton Roads. Former Congresswoman Elaine Luria is looking to return to Capitol Hill after losing the district in 2022. The retired Navy commander says her military experience and previous time representing Hampton Roads has prepared her to take on Washington and the challenges facing the district. Luria's campaign focuses on affordability and protecting health care and stopping what she calls chaos in Washington under the Trump administration.
Well, this is a time when we need someone with experience and we need someone with a backbone. I have stood up to Trump before. I flipped this seat in 2018 when the people of the 2nd District were, fed up with the first Trump administration, and here we are again. We're in a situation where people want to change, they want something different, and I'm the person who will deliver that next Tuesday and then again in November.
Bill Fleming says his background in the military, education, government contracting, and environmental science has shaped his approach to public service. Fleming describes himself as an independent Democrat who wants to bring science-based decision-making to Congress. His priorities include supporting farmers through agricultural research, improving health care, and giving voters a stronger voice in government.
Being a scientist, I'm strongly supportive of increased agricultural research so that farmers are able to do more with what they're doing without having to spend a lot of money on chemicals. We need somebody that's not an old-style Democrat. We need independent Democrats who are going to listen to independents and Republicans as well and be able to work with them.
Physician Dr. Nila Devanath says her campaign is rooted in community advocacy rather than political establishment. Educated at the University of Pittsburgh, Harvard, and Yale, she says her experience treating patients across Hampton Roads has shown her how high costs can keep families from getting the care they need. Devanath's campaign centers on affordability and reducing the influence of corporate money in politics.
I am representing a progressive voice that is really anti-corruption and anti-corporate money and anti-APAC. And I think that's really important on both sides of the aisle, because there are folks in the primary who in their past have taken corporate money and APAC, and also on the Republican side as well. But I think people are really fed up with that. They want somebody who speaks truth to power, and that's me.
Patrick Mosolf coins himself as a servant of the people and says his years of humanitarian work overseas helped shape his view of leadership and democracy. Mosolf's campaign is built around restoring trust in government, strengthening democratic institutions, and applying what he describes as a broad understanding of public policy to the challenges facing Hampton Roads.
Because I worked so much in democracy, human rights, and governance, and again, a lot of those human rights I was working on were political freedoms, which is also related to the political process. I was involved in observing political processes, involved in observing political parties, fighting for human rights, looking at good governance, how good governance should function, and had many, many years throughout my career to reflect on how you get good results for people. And then I realized, rather than being an outside observer, I want to be in government. So I decided I should run for office.
4 candidates, 4 different visions for Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. Now it's up to Democratic voters to decide who will carry their party's banner into the general election. Layla Cox, 13 News Now.
All right, Layla Cox with excellent in-depth reporting on all of those candidates. Now, unfortunately, her excellent reporting is not reflected by what I did in our introduction. I made a mistake here on the procession of that 2nd Congressional District seat. Let's go through this in full and make sure that I correct those mistakes. Let's start in 2016. Republican Scott Taylor won this seat in 2016. Fast forward to 2018, Elaine Luria wins the seat from Scott Taylor. Then we move to 2020. Elaine Luria, the incumbent, wins again defeating Scott Taylor. Then Jen Kiggins comes into the picture in 2022. Jen Kiggins defeats Elaine Luria. In 2024, Jen Kiggins, the incumbent, wins again, defeating Missy Cotter-Smozzle. So we had Luria taking down Scott Taylor twice before Jen Kiggins came into the picture. I think that's where I got mixed up a little bit. Now we move forward, and remember, it's not Elaine Luria versus Jen Kiggins yet. Elaine Luria has to win today's Democratic primary, and then she will be able to challenge Jen Kiggins to take back that 2nd congressional seat, which she once held. We are going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to go over the candidates for that 1st congressional seat. Again, another Democratic primary for the opportunity to take on Rob Whitman. That is up next. All right, back here on Live Impact News. Let's continue with our coverage of primary day throughout the country and especially here in Virginia. We looked at that 2nd congressional district just moments ago. Let's take a look at the 1st congressional district. Whoever wins this Democratic primary will face off against Republican Rob Whitman, the longtime representative from this area. 7 Democratic candidates, and I could list them all for you, but I think what we'll do instead is just go straight to our preview story from Brianna Fallon. She did a wonderful job of looking in depth into each of these candidates. Let's take a listen to that right now. She'll give you the full overview of the, again, 7 Democratic candidates in this primary.
1 nomination, 7 candidates, each looking for your vote during Tuesday's primary election.
Rob Whitman has won by 10 percentage points or more over some very good Democratic candidates in the past because the district is so conservative. And I think the combination of me being an Army veteran, small business owner, having 30 years of real world experience will appeal to the independent voters and more moderate voters in the rest of the district. And we're going to need every one of them to put us over the top and win in this district.
Meet Mel Toll. His campaign runs on economic opportunity through affordability, with plans to strengthen the economy, enhance access to healthcare, and increase affordable housing. Toll believes in a practical solutions-focused approach. He says with a strong background in business law, he can find common ground between parties to achieve real solutions.
Watching people cut the safety net away and claiming that that is saving us money is the antithesis of what I think this country represents. So I want to see not only the safety net to include Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, SNAP assistance, TANF, housing assistance, all of these programs. Not only do I want to see them back, I want to see them improved and increased.
Jason Knapp says he grew up using government programs such as food stamps and Medicaid. That's why one of his main goals is to further improve programs that protect the vulnerable population. As a Navy veteran, father, and former congressional fellow on Capitol Hill, Knapp says he believes the government should invest in people through accountability and affordability.
When we talk about healthcare, that is universal health care. To me, TRICARE is the model for that, a single payer, all-encompassing care. But we have to protect real hospitals. We have to invest in education so that we have enough providers. We're in a physician and a nursing crisis right now.
After graduating an ROTC program with a degree in political science, Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs says she was one of the first women to serve in a combat arms role in the Army. Later, she became a foster parent and devoted her work to advocacy. Today, she's running for Congress. If elected, Dempsey Beggs hopes to create new policy around and beyond her campaign's three main pillars: accountability, affordability, and protection of rights.
I'm the only candidate who has the legislative experience needed to hit the ground running on day one. We've drafted bills and built and led coalitions to do impossible things like expanding SNAP for 25,000 families with a unanimous vote from Democrats and Republicans in Virginia.
Salah Bhatti says those achievements were made during his time at the Virginia Poverty Law Center. Bhatti has firsthand experience on how programs like WIC and free school meals can impact families, as he relied on the programs while growing up. As a public interest lawyer, Bhatti says he's running to fight for families in his district through a people-first solutions approach. His top three priorities are Medicare for all, taxing billionaires, and campaign finance reform.
I think I have the most extensive policy platform of everyone. I have the big and the bold, fighting big money in politics, making sure that we can get a universal healthcare system that is affordable. The 1st District has never had a congressperson who is focused on local issues. I am, regardless if you're in the rural areas or the suburbs, all the way from Matthews to Chesterfield. I have a plan that will help everybody.
Tim Sawinski interned for Senator Tim Kaine before serving as a communications director for the Sierra Club Virginia chapter. Sawinski says he plans to focus on several issues, including the economy by investing in small businesses, expanding access to child care, raising the minimum wage, and more. Sawinski also mentioned he works with Democrats and Republicans to fight data centers.
My platform has been consistently noted as being the most progressive out of all of the candidates. There is nobody else in this race that is looking to do these kinds of comprehensive, aggressively pro-people policies that I am, like the universal education from pre-K through post-secondary and trade schools.
Erica Kopp says the main 3 points she's running on are affordability, accountability, and basic human rights. As a practicing healthcare attorney and caregiver to her husband, who is a disabled combat veteran, policies she would focus on include universal healthcare and universal education. She believes in advocating through a people-first approach.
Whitman's votes to support the budget bill, we know that had a direct impact on health care. That budget bill gave great harm to the people here in the 1st Congressional District. We know that costs everywhere are up. The cost of housing, the cost of food, the cost of medication.
That's why one of Shannon Taylor's main goals would be to address the, quote, extremely high cost of living. Taylor is currently the Henrico County Commonwealth's attorney, where her office holds a 90% homicide conviction rate. She believes accountability is key, which is why, if elected, Taylor says she would propose an agenda to ban stock trading by members of Congress and to mandate jail time for politicians who break the public's trust. Brianna Fallon, 13 News Now.
Again, a huge shout out to Layla Cox and Brianna Fallon, who did wonderful work getting those two previews ready for the 1st and 2nd congressional districts here in Virginia. Jen Kiggins and Rob Whitman, the two Republican incumbents, wait to see who their Democratic challengers will be when the actual full-on election comes in November. And it is something that we will have results of, as many as we can get, tonight at 11 p.m. here on 13 News Now. Now, there is another primary. There is a primary, a Republican primary for a Senate seat here in Virginia. Mark Warner will be challenged by either Burt Mizuzawa, Kim Farrington, or David Williams, the 3 Republicans running in a primary today to, again, see who will win the opportunity to challenge longtime United States Senator from Virginia, Mark Warner. So Burt Mizuzawa, Kim Farrington, David Williams, all vying for that Republican nomination for that Senate seat. Mark Warner has had a hold on that Senate seat for a long time here in Virginia. Mark Warner, just in general as a politician statewide, is very well known and again holds a great deal of influence here in Virginia. Now, Kim Farrington has centered her campaign on government spending, border security, inflation concerns. Burt Mizuzawa is a former Pentagon official. He has talked a lot about his military experience, foreign policy, energy, defense, and then David Williams, a businessman, a U.S. Navy veteran, is promising to cut taxes and reduce the size of the federal government. So those three conservative Senate hopefuls, again, looking to challenge Mark Warner, the longtime senator from here in Virginia.